You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey, I'm your host, Jeffrey D. Calhoun, and I'd love it if you join our community at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com. You'll get access to seminars, workshops, Oscar-nominated screenplays, and even open writing assignments from producers. Get all the tools, resources, and support you need to launch your screenwriting career for free. Now, on to our show. All right, welcome to the show. So we have on a pretty amazing guest. We're doing a new segment now with the Successful Screenwriter where I'm interviewing people that have been working in their career for a long time, CIA, FBI, police, fire, detectives, all kinds. And today we have on Larry Jones, who has been a CIA officer for the U.S. government. For how long, Larry?
I entered on duty in 1985. I retired 2004, but
Wow.
stayed until 2015 as a contractor.
Amazing. So I want to kind of break the mysteries behind what a CIA agent is for anybody out there that listens to the show who can use this episode as a resource to help them write a script or a character around what a CIA officer is. So can you kind of give me a brief rundown of what a CIA officer does?
Well, they do things that the rest of the community does. I mean, you name a job and we have officers that fulfill that job.
Okay. And what is the main mission of the CIA?
To collect intelligence, usually classified intelligence from other countries, other governments, and report that information to the policymakers in the U.S.
And how does someone get recruited into the CIA?
Well, in my case, I was working as a special agent with the Air Force, and I just saw an ad.
The job application?
Yeah, and they wanted polygraph officers, polygraph examiners, which I was at the time. So I just sent in my name, and they hired me.
Oh, it's pretty cut and dry, pretty easy. So what is the CIA looking for in an officer? What are the particular traits, talents, or skills that they want? Do they want somebody who's analytical?
Of course, that's one of the major occupations in the intelligence directorate. There are like 5 directorates in the agency. You have the operations, which they call a clandestine operations directorate, and they're the spies.
Okay,
you might say. They go out in other countries and recruit agents to provide us with information. And then you have the other directorates that do technical things, like they're the people, the experts that install audio and video recording devices. If we're surveilling a particular place or person, then those techs will come in, and they also do what we call covert communications with the agents. Once we hire and vet a person, then we provide them with a secure means to communicate with the case officer. And we have technical people that go in and train them on how to use that. Usually it's a computer-based operation.
Okay.
And then you have the analysts, and those are all the people that take the information from the clandestine operations, and they'll take the information in raw form and convert it to a form that we can give to the policymakers. And then they make recommendations and so forth on what to do with that information. And there's hundreds of different analysts, you might say. For instance, I was good friends with a gentleman that could look at a railroad car, and he could tell me what was on the car. If there's a big box, he could tell me what was inside the box just by looking at the box.
Really?
And he was an expert in looking at missiles. You know, Russia, let's say, would be transporting missiles on trains, and he could just look at the train and tell what kind of missile was inside the
That's
boxcar.
amazing. So like highly specialized in whatever their discipline is, and they have this large support structure around them, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
So you came in from the military, you were a Marine, right?
Yes.
All right. So your vetting process was probably pretty easy because you were already vetted by the military. So it was probably a smooth transition for you to go into the CIA. But what if it is from someone from a college level, someone that they're recruiting outside of the US military that hasn't been vetted yet? What is that process like?
Well, the agency also has recruiters that do go to college campuses. They may go to police departments. They go wherever they need someone of a particular expertise.
Okay.
It could be an economist.
Really?
And, yeah.
And they'll search them out because they want whatever discipline they have and expertise on that field.
That's correct.
Is this a rigorous process? Do they have to go through a lot of interviews? Are they obviously are they doing a bunch of background checks and stuff?
Well, for me, I was stationed in California at the time, so the first thing I had to do was go to UCLA and take it was an all-day test, language, I can't even remember. It's been so long ago, but it was,
Right.
I remember it was all day from morning till night, about 10 hours of testing.
Wow. To
then,
like ascertain what your strengths are, or
it was aptitude test.
oh, okay.
You know, were you suited to do this kind of work?
Gotcha.
And I guess I was suited because they hired me.
That's
But that was the first thing. And then if you're selected, you of course go through vetting procedures, which includes a polygraph examination.
right. And that's what you
And,
did, right? You did polygraph.
Right. That's what just starting out, yes.
And then you kind of moved up from there.
Well, actually, I stayed. I was in polygraph for probably 17 years or so,
That's neat.
and then I became what was called a area security officer, and I was just a man that gave security violations to people if they didn't lock a vault or they did something wrong.
All right. So as a polygraph, what was the title for that?
Polygraph officer.
As a polygraph officer, did you over the time start to realize when people are lying before even looking at the polygraph?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you could start reading people.
Behavior analysis. Yeah.
So let's talk about polygraph a little bit, because that's something they still do. So what with the polygraph are you analyzing? I know it's heartbeat. Do they analyze pupils and dilation and things like that?
No, our basic machine instrument recorded respiration, your breathing patterns, what's called GSR, galvanic skin response. That's just 2 electrodes on your skin, on your fingers usually.
Okay. Did you have anybody beat a polygraph on you?
Yes.
And what was typical of someone able to do something like that? What's the typical personality of someone who could beat a polygraph?
Usually someone that had no fear.
Is that what it is? So,
But-
because they say psychopaths do not experience fear. And so they say like Charles Manson was able to beat several polygraphs. So that's why I was interested in if that was actually a real thing.
Well, in all the time I was there, probably the main person that beat us and hurt us pretty bad was Aldrich Ames, Rick Ames. Yeah.
And
He's
and who is this?
Aldrich Ames was a counterintelligence officer, and he was a expert in Russia. In fact, his job was to meet with the Russians in their embassy and talk to them,
Yeah.
Sort of a liaison type thing with the Russians in Washington, D.C.
And he worked for the US.
Yeah, he was CIA officer, GS-14.
And he was able to beat a polygraph at will.
He did beat us a couple of times, yeah.
That's
He did.
amazing. That's amazing.
Otherwise, he would have been caught long before he was caught.
Wow.
But
So
of
they
course, we
eventually
did-
they did catch him though and found out he was like a double agent.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah, and him
That's
and his wife
incredible.
both. His wife did a couple of years in prison. Of course, he's still in prison for life. He'll never
Right.
get out.
Right. That's amazing. All right. So give me a day to day. So as a polygraph officer, obviously your day you would come in and you would log results and then you would go perform the polygraph. What would the day to day be for someone that was in a clandestine operations or in the CovCom or analysts, things like that?
Well, my day-to-day operations, when I started out, there are various levels in polygraph that you go through. You start out as a new officer, you will polygraph people who are applying for jobs.
Oh, okay. You were vetting everybody, man.
Yes. Or you may be polygraphing employees who have been there 5 years or so, and it's time for another polygraph for them.
To make sure that they're still legitimate, not double agents.
Right.
That's amazing.
And normally you do 2 polygraphs a day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And after that, you move up to the industrial side, which is where you'll go around the country, the U.S., and polygraph contractors.
Really?
People needing security clearances. They may be pilots flying our clandestine aircraft, or people working on boats, boat captains and so forth around the area.
So,
and after that, you move up into what I spent most of my time in, which is clandestine operations. We call it the operations branch.
Operation, you call it clandestine, you call it operations.
Yeah.
And what were you doing for them?
Well, you would get a request from the case officer or a counterintelligence officer, whatever, that they would want one of their agents tested polygraph for vetting purposes. And then you would go to that country, wherever the person was located, or a third country.
Wow.
Anywhere in the world, usually. And
were they doing this? Were they doing these at embassies? Were they doing this at unlocated, unmarked sites? Where were they doing these polygraphs at?
It varied. It could be a hotel, could be a safe house, could be any place at all, really.
Wow. All right. So yeah, so it wasn't like an official thing. This was a little bit more secret, a little bit more on the hush.
Well, Oh, yes, it's
Okay.
definitely hush hush, and some in some cases, very high level cases were called black operations. So you'd go in and you wouldn't go to the embassy, you wouldn't meet anybody, you just go to into a country and wait for them to contact you.
Wow.
And so an officer would contact you. And
Do you have any anecdotes or stories about times when this happened where you had to go out and do a polygraph on someone that was different or unusual?
well, I remember one case, and I guess I won't name the country, but because it's an allied country.
Yeah,
But
let's not devolve any let's not devolve any secrets.
we had the officer there was running a Russian Politburo member, like a congressman in another country
Okay.
for Russia. And so I went in black to polygraph that person.
So going in
And
black means going in under a black operations.
yeah, you
Okay.
either going in an alias
Really? Wow.
or as maybe as a tourist, could be in true name under tourist cover.
That's amazing. I would have never thought a polygraph officer would have to adopt a new personality or pretend to be a tourist or go under like that to do that. So that's really fascinating. So you went to this black ops site and then you polygraphed.
Well, I was supposed to,
Okay.
except we were going to set up the polygraph meeting for a couple of days in the future.
Okay.
And I remember one Friday night about midnight, I'm in the hotel room and I get a call from an embassy contact. And all she said was, "Leave now."
Oh.
And
Okay.
so that was a keywords or dress code for me to leave right then.
It's a
Don't
real
even
subtle
bother.
it's a real subtle code word.
Yeah.
Leave now, you get the hell out of there. So so you just go right to the airport and leave, I'm assuming. And
That's what I did. The case officer I was working with, he took a train and got out of town that way.
yeah, it makes
via
sense.
train.
You wouldn't take the same way out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
to
went out
avoid.
I just went to De Gaulle Airport and caught a flight back to the US.
So your
And
contact is a case manager, right?
yes, we call them case officers.
Case officer is your contact. So they're kind of like almost like a handler for you. So they'd be, hey, this is what I need, this is where you go, and then this is that, and then they give you all the info you need to get there.
Yeah, he's the person working in the CIA station. He's the intelligence officer or the operations officer
Awesome.
who recruits agents to work for him or to provide him with classified information.
So is that consistent? So then they recruit you and then you're working with them for however long, a year, a month?
Yes.
Okay.
Could be a one-time thing. It could be for life.
Wow. So you probably develop a relationship there. Give me the difference between a CIA officer and a CIA agent.
Well, an officer is someone like myself who is an employee of the CIA.
Okay.
You're a paid employee, a professional. An agent,
you clock in and you clock out.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
An agent can be anyone. Usually 9 times out of 10, he's a foreign national. He's a citizen of another country.
Okay.
And the operations officer will find that person and get him to agree to work for us, to provide us with information. And then once he's vetted and recruited, he becomes an agent, a CIA agent.
On the payroll.
So yeah, just about most movies, television shows refer to CIA agents as the people working in the agency, the officers, but they're two different things.
See, that's an important delineation to know there. CIA agent is a foreign national that we're contracting for information, right? We pump them for information,
Right.
which is pretty risky. I mean, if they get caught, it's not good. It's not good.
I've seen a lot of our agents executed.
Really?
Yeah.
Do they ever try and defect? Does our country take in agents that are compromised?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there have been a lot of occasions where we've had to, where our networks will be compromised and we'll have to pull them out. And usually we bring them either to a third country or to the U.S.
Right. And then I have to assume it's probably they get a new identity and everything or something to keep them safe.
We set them up pretty good.
Okay, that's good. Well,
housing.
Yeah, this brings me to a CIA officer's part of their everyday life. Are at home in their community, do people know what they do for a living? Do their friends know they're CIA officers? Do they have to hide it from them, or is it an open secret and nobody cares?
No, you're usually undercover.
So your daily life, even a CIA officer of operations, of COM analysts, polygraph officers like yourself, at home, people don't know what you're doing.
Right.
That's fascinating.
Your family does, your wife.
Right.
In my particular case, my parents didn't know for many years.
Really?
They thought I was I worked at the Pentagon.
Doing like office duty stuff?
Yeah, in fact,
that's fantastic.
Anecdote, my son was born on 9/11, 77. And on 9/11, 2001, I was my cover was I worked in the Pentagon in the basement. But when the plane hit the Pentagon,
wow. Yeah.
People that thought I worked there were calling and wanted to know if I survived. And I was in another building, several miles away.
Right. But that was the cover. So that's fascinating because, as a writer, I wouldn't think like, everybody who works for the CIA is really they're undercover in their personal lives so that they can go to work and not have to worry about being compromised or anything like that. Because obviously it would put your family at risk. So that's absolutely fascinating. I hope you enjoyed this sneak peek into our character database. To hear the full uncut interview, join our community at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com. Listen, our character database is amazing and there is nothing else out there like it. This contains interviews with individuals in unique professions such as CIA officers, FBI agents, hackers, con artists, and more, all for you to use as research for your next big scripts. Go to thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com and sign up.